Let's move on to this now. As South African Airways presses on with plans to retrench staff, pilots have warned the move will affect transformation in the local airline industry. Pilots say it's imperative for SAA to retain African pilots if it survives the business rescue process. Sibusiso Nxumalo is a pilot with SAA and joins us now. Sibusiso joins us now via Skype. Sibusiso, good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for your time. I've got a letter here that pilots at SAA have written to the business rescue practitioners. We'll get into the details of that, but let me first ask you, just as an employee of SAA, how did you feel and how did you receive that proposal by the business rescue practitioners to lay off staff and start paying severance packages?
Good afternoon, Clement, and good afternoon to all the viewers out there. So we received the letter, which was circulated, unfortunately, through unofficial channels. So some of us received it via emails from friends and some received it on the WhatsApp channels. So when we read through, it seems as if this document was tabled at the Section 189 consultation processes with the unions. So how it got out and got into our hands, we are not sure. But this came from the union discussions. And when we read through the letter, it was very telling that it seems as if that the final course of the final days of the airline are actually on its way now. Yeah.
Let's talk about the transformation in the aviation industry, because one of the things that this letter points to is that if SAA and SA Express were to close down, that is going to really affect the transformation in this industry. How would that be the case? How would black pilots be affected if these two airlines were to shut down?
Absolutely. So when you look at the background between the body between South African Airways and South African Express, it was when the cadet program initially was started, was a lot of our candidates and most of my colleagues went to train in Australia back in the days, and some ended up training in Port Alfred at 43A school. So subsequently to that, South African Express was set up as a stepping stone in order for you to get your pilot flying hours in order to join South African Airways. So it became a natural progression order for candidates like us who were part of the cadet training program in order to get into SAA. So the bigger picture here is if the collapse of South African Airways, the collapse of South African Express, the onus is always on the government to try and enforce transformation in state-owned entities. And unfortunately, most privately owned companies do not have transformation policies or transformation initiatives that will guarantee the improvement of black pilots within the aviation industry as a whole. So when we look at it again, it's such a bigger impact on the aviation industry as a whole in South Africa because it will trickle down to training institutions. So now you will find that a black and previously disadvantaged candidate will find it more difficult to consider aviation as a job where they will not be sure or not find any secure means, would not have a secure channel to follow and subsequently to get into SAA in the end.
Yeah. I want to ask you about the seniority list system under the regulating agreement and how that has impacted transformation at SAA.
Okay, that is a very contentious subject at the moment, and we received quite a lot of calls not in favor of that, what we used that line. So essentially, we looked at it holistically. The seniority list system has been it is slightly counterproductive when it comes to the progression of pilots of color. So it will demand that a person would naturally progress through the ranks of the airline, having time served and the accumulation of your flying hours. But now, if you look at the amount of senior captains, of black and designated group senior captains, the amount of junior captains as well, and we trickle down through the seniority list system, it doesn't really balance and it doesn't really represent the demographics of the pilot body. So there can be and there should be a consideration of in terms of can we maybe try and have a parallel seniority system that will ensure that we get representation in all forms and in all levels of seniority within the seniority system. It's not that we say we want the complete abolishment of the seniority system. We just want to encourage a form of having a transformative seniority system in the regulating agreement.
All right. Sibusiso Nxumalo, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. He's a pilot with SAA.